The Alchemist follows the story of a young Andalusian shepherd, who travels to the pyramids of Egypt to find a treasure he has recurrently dreamed about. On his journey, he has to overcome multiple obstacles, through which he learns valuable life lessons. Based on a 13th-century folktale, it explores topics such as following your dreams, finding your destiny, and the nature of love. Little shepherd boy Santiago is headed to a town where he met a beautiful girl the year before, and is pretty ramped up about it. While camping out in an abandoned church with his sheep, Santiago has a recurring dream. He explains it to a gypsy woman, like you do, who tells him that he must go to the pyramids in Egypt to find a hidden treasure. Then Santiago runs into a mysterious old man named Melchizedek, who tells him that everyone has a personal legend they must follow, and that he must listen to omens in order to seek his treasure. He also gives him some handy-dandy stones that will help him know what to do when he can't seem to find answers, sort of like a magic 8-ball, only less ambiguous. Santiago sells his sheep and heads to Tangier, where he's promptly robbed of all his money. Undeterred, he gets a job selling glass, coming up with flashy marketing ideas that bring in all sorts of business. Once he's saved up enough money to cross the Sahara and get to the pyramids, he meets up with a caravan about to cross the desert on camels. An Englishman in the group is headed to the Al-Fayyum Oasis to meet an alchemist who will teach him how to turn any metal into gold. So far everything is going smoothly, which obviously means that something bad has to happen. And it does. There are nerve-wracking rumors of war between desert tribes, and the caravan decides to chill in a handy oasis until the wars are over, meaning anywhere from weeks to years. Poor Santiago, so close to the pyramids and so very far. He decides to help the Englishman find the alchemist. Luckily, the only person who will give him any info just so happens to be a smoking hot girl named Fatima, with whom Santiago promptly falls in love. When the Englishman goes to the alchemist, he makes him start cooking up some lead as a first step towards becoming an alchemist himself, so he's pretty busy with that for the rest of the novel. Santiago goes out into the desert where he has a vision of the oasis being attacked. He tells the tribal leaders, who decide to get ready to defend. One catch: if the oasis isn't attacked, they'll kill Santiago. Surprise! The oasis is attacked, and the prepared men are able to defeat the raiders. That worked out well. The alchemist takes note of the new smarty pants in town and decides to help him reach the pyramids, but they're captured by yet another group of warriors as soon as they ride out on horseback across the desert. The alchemist has a solution. He tells them that Santiago will become the wind. What? Santiago figures he might as well try, what with being captured, so he sits down, concentrates on the desert, and finally he becomes the wind. Naturally, this scares the daylights out of the warriors, so they let him and the alchemist go on their way. They finally arrive at a monastery, where the alchemist whips up some gold and divides it up before sending Santiago on to the pyramids. He digs where he's sure he'll find the treasure, but, of course, some punks come and beat him up and steal his gold. Give a guy a break, punks! Weirdly, one of them mentions that he once had a dream on that spot of a treasure buried in an abandoned church in Spain. Bingo! Santiago has his answer. The book ends with Santiago digging up the treasure in the church where the whole story started and getting ready to head back to Egypt, where Fatima awaits. Gee, no way that could go wrong. The novel presents the fear of death, and fear in general, as obstacles that prevent people from living meaningful lives and achieving their personal legends. The Crystal Merchant is a perfect example of this. The Crystal Merchant is unwilling to pursue his personal legend, and the requirement of his religious faith, by traveling to Mecca, because he is afraid of what his life will be like after completing this goal. He tells himself that he is staying alive and working hard because he's holding on to the goal of Mecca, and yet he always pushes this goal into the future, keeping it as a distant dream and not something he is actively pursuing. He does this to protect himself from his fear of an uncertain future. In contrast, one of the lessons Santiago learns from the stoic and wise camel driver is to live in the present moment, rather than the future or the past. The camel driver teaches that dying one day is no different than dying on any other day, and in explaining this, he emphasizes that the only thing of importance is the present. He does not fear death because he does not look to the future, and his reward is the quality of his life in each given moment. Because Santiago comes to believe that death is not a threat, he is able to follow the omens God lays out before him, and to do so without fear. He also learns how to appreciate life as it is lived, and to find and experience the happiness and joy of being alive in the present. Love is another major thematic strand of this novel that runs parallel to other themes. Santiago is highly conscious of the real objective of the Egyptian pyramid and the treasure. However, he also falls in love with Fatima while staying at the oasis of the Al-Fayum. He resolves to come back to marry her. Hence, the introduction of love at this point further makes him firm in his resolve to visit the pyramids to find the treasure. Although he feels that he should stay, Fatima urges him to follow his personal legend and fulfill his dream. Santiago returns to his love, and he also fulfills his personal legend for love. At first, Santiago has a dream and then its interpretation from the old gypsy woman and Melchizedek. Later, he experiences his self-discovery and leaves home, despite his father's desire to make him a priest. Santiago chooses to live an independent life. However, his father, gypsy woman, and Melchizedek inspire him in his self-discovery and his personal legend. Melchizedek's words that when a person intends upon doing something, the whole world seems to conspire to stand by him stands true in his case. He discovers it when transforming the wind into a storm to fulfill his prediction. After Santiago arrives in the desert during his pursuit of his personal legend, he begins to realize that there is a universal language spoken by all humans, animals, and objects. He learns to speak to the sun and the wind by listening to the desert and by listening to his heart, which can speak the language of the world. This language allows him to access the soul of the world, which is a godlike oneness of all things. The novel's portrayal of a universal language and the soul of the world demonstrates its theme of the interconnectedness of all things. Santiago feels a great sense of unity with other people, places, and objects he encounters on his quest, and his ability to access this feeling of unity allows him to learn about the world. For example, the alchemist challenges Santiago to find life in the desert, and Santiago realizes that he does not need advanced skills to do this. He realizes that the interconnectedness of all things allows his horse to be aware of the world, and that life attracts life. He lets his horse lead him to rocks where a snake lives. The alchemist, an unsurprisingly important figure in the novel given its title, nevertheless does not teach Santiago the literal practices of alchemy in which metals are processed and transformed into gold. But he does help Santiago see that the processes of alchemy, such as purifying and simplifying or observing something to learn from it, are applicable to all of life. For example, Santiago learns from the alchemist that studying the world will teach him everything he needs to know, just as studying the Englishman's texts might have taught him the particulars of alchemy. Because of the interconnectedness of all things, the world itself is a great teacher. Any one thing, no matter how small, allows access to the entirety of creation. A metal can access and become gold because of this oneness, and Santiago can transform himself into the wind because of this oneness. The novel portrays tapping into the interconnectedness of things as the goal of both alchemy and the pursuit of one's personal legend. The Alchemist is a beautiful thought-provoking story of Santiago's physical journey from Spain to Africa, and his spiritual journey where he discovers the importance of completing his personal legend and realizes the purpose of his life.